This is one of my first videos I've made, so be kind to me, please. I'm not a professional at this. This is my attempt at trying to help anybody that I can. So do your own research, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. This is just a quick tutorial on the load side, amperage requirement for solar system. My system includes a vehicle charger, electric vehicle charger, that's connected directly to the solar, that is actually set to only use solar power to charge the vehicle. So if anybody is actually using advice from this, remember, you have to go by whatever your local jurisdiction requires. And I found out that local building departments are usually pretty easygoing when it comes there. They always want to help, and they want to make sure everything is safe. So just check with your local building department or codes enforcement people, just to make sure that you're doing it right. It would really kind of suck to spend a lot of money and implement something that's not going to pass inspection. I had a few people ask me about my solar. I had one guy say that, asked me how large my system was, and that he wanted to put like a 20, 30, I can't remember what he said, but 20, 30 kilowatt system on his house, which you may be able to do it, but not without some modification. My system on the AC side is 11.4 kilowatts, and that was about the maximum I could really go on this house for a few reasons. And one was the amperage that it would provide, because the panel, my panel has 200 amp bus bars, and that's one of the main considerations when you're installing solar. There are other ways. I'll show you how mine is installed. There are a few different ways you can do it, like connecting through the bus bar, or you can do line side tap. But some jurisdictions, you can even have some kind of an adapter for the that goes behind the meter, the electrical meter. But the most common way is the way I did it. And my system is owner builder installed. And I'll try to get you the formulas of, or at least the AC side, how it has to be done correctly. So for my system, we have two inverters. One is a 7.6 kilowatt and one is a 3.8, and it's connected through this combiner, this AC combiner, which is just a basic load center panel. And this circuit breaker is actually for the surge protector. And let's see, this one here is for the 7.6, and this one here is for the 3.8. And this is a 40 amp, and this is a 20 amp circuit breaker, which equals 60. And then I'll show you how it's connected in the main panel. This is my load center, which has 200 amp bus bars, and it originally had a 200 amp main breaker. And if you look at your own load center, you should be able to find a label that has all the information on it. Sometimes you'll have a load center that has a smaller circuit breaker than it's the maximum that is allowable for the size bus bars you have. So you really want to check, because that'll determine the size of system that you can install, the size of the solar system you can install. And this one right here says it's 200 amp max. And over here it shows the different type or size of circuit breakers and the part numbers for them. This panel is top fed, so the main is here. The feed comes in through the meter, through the circuit breaker into the top of the bus bar. And in order to install the solar, it has to be installed on the opposite end of the bus bar, which is why the solar circuit breaker is down here, and that gives an even load on the bus bar. We installed a 60 amp solar, and we had to downgrade our 200 amp to this 175, and we had to placard it for the city to pass code. In the next, I'll show you the simple formula to figure out the size of the, or how to figure out what maximum size solar you could use per the bus bars that you have in your panel and the size of the main breaker that you would need. The formula is pretty simple. We're using the 120% rule for sizing. So using the 120% rule, you would do the size of your bus bars, which mine are 200, and then you would times that by 120%, and that equals 240. So my bus bars can basically handle the 240 amp load. So then we know that my solar is going to be 60 amps. So we add, let's see, 60, and my original main breaker was 200 amps, and that equals 260. So you could see, if I wanted to put this 11.4 kilowatt system that requires a 60 amp breaker, I would have to have a 260 amp bus bar, which obviously isn't going to work. So what I had to do is I had to downgrade my main circuit breaker to 175. So again, 60 plus, that's for the solar breaker, 175 for the, oh, I'm sorry, let's do that again. 60 amps for the solar breaker plus 175 amp for the derated main, and that equals 235. So now we can go ahead and install the solar that is going to require a 60 amp breaker, and with a degraded or main from a 200 amp to a 175 on a panel that has 200 amp a 200 amp bus bar. Not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but as well as permits from the local jurisdiction, you also need to get permission to install and operate a solar system from your utility, your local utility. So before you spend money, you may want to make sure that you have permission to install it. Otherwise, it just could be a problem. They have limits maybe on the amount of solar you can install or whatever. My jurisdiction, although they originally told me I can only install up to 80% of our prior usage of the last 2 years, that wasn't true. Turns out I could, and I did install the 100% of the prior usage. What they did is they took the last 24 months of usage, and they out of those 24 months they took the most usage the highest usage month, 12 highest usage months out of the last 24 to determine the system size that I could use or I could install. So that's how that worked. And you know, doing it like I said earlier, I am owner builder of the system and installer, and so you know, this is not, my system is not a lease, and in my opinion, a lease, I wouldn't recommend a lease, or especially, you know, these people come around and they try to convince you that there's no money down or whatever, and they try to do power purchase agreements. No, they're, in my opinion, no good. The best thing to do is save some money and buy the components and do it yourself, or even hire somebody to do it. But the components, if you procure the stuff yourself, you could save a lot of money. And plus, you know, they're doing away with the 30% tax credit, but I think you have another couple of weeks. You know, you got to get your approvals and stuff by that time, I'm pretty sure. But it's, you know, it's worth it if you can get it done. But anyway, that's about it. I appreciate you guys watching, whoever. I hope this helped somebody. And that's about it. Thank you so much, and see you later. Bye-bye.